It all started with a leak, a single line hidden deep in a classified cable. But that one sentence was enough to rattle an entire country. Traoré had just 24 hours to deliver 90% of Burkina Faso's oil and gold, or face serious consequences. And the name at the bottom, Donald J. Trump, then President of the United States. He wasn't just playing politics, he was running a hard-hitting global business offensive through backdoor diplomacy. The demand shocked even Washington's inner circle. No talks, no deals, just a flat-out ultimatum. Hand over almost complete control of the country's newly found oil and gold reserves. It wasn't a negotiation, it was a threat aimed right at the heart of Ouagadougou. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Sources say the cable didn't just show up. It was hand-delivered by a trusted go-between, a former U.S. military attaché flanked by private American security contractors. It landed on Captain Ibrahim Traoré's desk at dawn. The message crystal clear. Let AES corporations start extracting oil and exporting gold immediately. Hand over long-term control of Burkina Faso's energy policy to an American-led economic board. Do it in 24 hours or face sanctions, resource blockades, and internal sabotage. This wasn't diplomacy. This was a shakedown. Trump's tone was blunt, cold, and all business. We saved you from terrorism. Now it's time to pay up. But there was one thing Trump didn't count on. The man sitting across from that demand wasn't the type to fold. Captain Traoré didn't flinch. He summoned his intelligence chief, brought in his top military commander, and told them straight, "Tell the Americans, Burkina Faso is not for sale." By midday, the story exploded. African media lit up. From Lagos to Kinshasa, the headlines were everywhere. Trump demands Africa's resources. Traoré agrees. Then 24-hour deadline. The world started watching, and Burkina Faso held its breath. But Traoré wasn't writing a reply with pen and paper. He was writing it with strategy and steel. You see, for months, something huge had been kept under wraps, buried beneath the dry plains of northern Burkina Faso. This wasn't rumor or guesswork. It was real. Massive, untouched oil reserves confirmed by a secret geological task force formed after Traoré seized power. Russian engineers helped run the scans. Iranian drones flew under the radar. North Korean tech teams locked down the data. Everything was classified. Everything was secure until the first drill broke ground. And then the satellites caught it. American satellites, French satellites, the ever-watching eyes in the sky. Within 48 hours, US intel flagged strange energy activity in the Sahel. They tracked equipment flowing in from Iran and Venezuela. Encrypted messages hinted at a new sovereign petroleum corridor, and soon the gold signals lit up too. Burkina Faso was already taking back its gold mines, quietly kicking out French-controlled companies and replacing them with national military units. The money no longer flowed to Paris. It was being redirected into a local development fund. And Washington understood exactly what this meant. Here was a country with oil and gold, not run by Wall Street, not answering to Paris, not begging the IMF, but backed by its own people, its own army, its own vision. That wasn't just defiance, that was a blueprint. And that scared the hell out of them. They didn't just want the oil. They wanted to kill the idea before Mali, Niger, Chad or Congo got any bright ideas. That's when the phone calls started from Exxon, from Chevron, from DC. Power players asking the same question. How do we shut this down before it becomes another Libya? Only this time, African-owned. Their answer, send Trump. Send threat. Force Traoré to kneel. But the man they picked, he doesn't kneel. When the message arrived in Ouagadougou, it wasn't dressed in diplomacy. It came wrapped in arrogance. The language of empire disguised as business. Trump's team delivered it like a business deal. But make no mistake, this wasn't negotiation. It was extortion. The demands were outlined in a 7-page document marked Confidential Strategic Resource Acquisition Framework, but the content was anything but subtle. 90% of Burkina Faso's oil production was to be granted to US oil giants for stabilization and infrastructure purposes. Control of all major gold export routes was to be handed over to US-approved intermediaries. An American advisory committee would oversee all new mining contracts and revenue distribution, and in exchange promises of military security cooperation, technology partnerships, and protection from regime change. Yes, you read that right. Protection from regime change. A veiled threat buried beneath polite wording. The message, obey us or fall. And at the top of the document in thick red ink, one handwritten note, Traoré has 24 hours. It wasn't just economic colonialism. It was imperialism too. 0. Bold, naked, and direct. Back in Washington, the political elite tried to play it cool. They claimed Trump was going rogue, acting on his own, not as part of official US policy, but behind closed doors. No one was stopping him, because deep down, Trump was just saying out loud what they'd all been thinking for years. We don't care who runs Africa, as long as we control what's under the ground. But Captain Ibrahim Traoré got the message loud and clear, and he had already made up his mind. No foreign power will dictate the future of our land. If this was going to be a power play, Traoré was ready, but not as a pawn. He was stepping in as a leader, a sovereign man representing a sovereign nation, and Trump, he just threatened the wrong soldier. When that demand landed, dead in Burkina Faso's war room, Traoré didn't flinch. He read the letter calmly twice. Then he set it aside, stood up and said flatly, "So that's their price for peace. Slavery in a suit and tie." He didn't wait. He didn't hesitate. He lit a fire. They want 90% of our future. Then they'll get 100% of our resistance. He didn't call Paris. He didn't call DC. He called the commander of the Special Sovereignty Force, a shadow military unit created for exactly this kind of moment. Orders were issued fast. Lock down every oil field, double security on gold convoys, cut off all data flows to foreign contractors, prep national TV. A statement was coming. By noon, the entire country was watching. The screen faded to black. Then came the flicker of a live feed. No fancy studio, no slick production, just Traoré in uniform. One hand on the Burkina flag, the other on a folder marked Confidential US Threat. His voice was calm. His stare was razor-sharp. To the people of Burkina Faso and to our African brothers and sisters, an offer has been made to sell our oil, to sell our gold, to sell our honor in exchange for fear. He paused. The room held its breath. To those behind this insult, to Mr. Trump and his backers, you have misjudged us. We are not Libya. We are not Iraq. We are not your playground. We will never trade our land for your luxury. We will never bow to your bullets or your banks. You gave us 24 hours. Here's our response. You now have 24 hours to take your greed, your threats, and your arrogance and leave African soil. He stood, saluted, and walked off screen. No questions, no deals, no backing down. But while Traoré's speech lit up Africa, sparking cheers from Dar to Dar es Salaam, another storm was quietly forming behind the scenes. In oil boardrooms and intel agencies, panic hit. At ExxonMobil, urgent calls went out to DC. At Halliburton, strategy teams scrambled to assess the damage. And at CIA headquarters in Langley, alarms started going off. Traoré didn't fold. He went public. That was the problem. If Burkina Faso could say no and win, what was to stop Mali, Niger, Chad or Congo from doing the same? So the pressure kicked up fast. CIA operatives started popping up more frequently in West Africa. Surveillance drones ran tighter flight paths over Burkina's oil fields and gold routes. Social media lit up with sudden smear campaigns calling Traoré unstable, erratic, even mentally unfit. And near the Ghana border, private contractors tied to a notorious intel firm were reportedly spotted moving in. The message from Washington was clear. This ends now. But Traoré's answer had already echoed across the continent. Africa is not yours to buy. Their mission, destabilization from within. Meanwhile, major Western media networks suddenly aligned in message began a new narrative. Burkina Faso's economic isolation could trigger a humanitarian crisis. Experts warned Traoré is leading his country into ruin. But inside Burkina Faso, the opposite was happening. More people lined up to volunteer for oil field security units. Hope you are enjoying this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Across Burkina Faso, the resistance wasn't just military. It was cultural, grassroots, and growing by the hour. University students held teachings on sovereignty and resource justice. Women's groups delivered food and supplies to soldiers guarding the gold mines. And every time CNN or the BBC ran another hit piece, young people didn't get angry. They laughed. Then they reposted it with the caption, "If they hate him this much, he must be doing something right." Captain Ibrahim Traoré understood something critical. The real enemy wasn't just Trump. It was the whole system, the global machine of banks, oil giants, spy agencies, and media empires that had stripped Africa for generations. And now that machine had turned its full weight against one man because he dared to do the unthinkable. He said no and meant it. Burkina Faso was under siege politically, economically, digitally, but Traoré wasn't standing alone. Just days after his bold rejection of Trump's ultimatum, 3 military planes touched down in Ouagadougou. No bombs, no weapons, just brothers. From Mali came Colonel Aimi Goita, silent, steady. From Niger, General Abdourahmane, eyes full of fire. And from Guinea, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya, walking tall, no apologies, no suits, no diplomats, no foreign handlers. They walked into the presidential palace side by side. And when they came out, they stood next to Traoré for the world to see. Then came the line that shook the continent. If you touch Burkina Faso, you touch all of us. This wasn't just a statement. It was a new doctrine. Africa's answer to NATO, the AES Shield. Mali sent battle-hardened advisors to protect oil fields. Nigeria deployed logistics teams to navigate desert terrain. Guinea opened its airspace for emergency supply runs. And they weren't just fighting on the ground, they took the fight online. AES-backed media launched a full-blown counterattack, exposing Western disinformation, highlighting the truth behind the resource war, flooding social feeds with one message: our resources, our future, our fight. The ripple effect was unstoppable. In Bamako, crowds filled the streets in solidarity with Traoré. In Conakry, murals went up showing him standing on oil barrels waving the Burkina flag high. Even in Chad and the Central African Republic, youth groups chanted AE or death. Back in the West, intelligence agencies scrambled to keep up, but they'd missed one key thing. This wasn't just about Burkina Faso anymore. This was a Pan-African firewall, and Traoré wasn't retreating. He was marching forward, backed by a brotherhood forged not in treaties, but in war, betrayal, and the shared dream of true African freedom while stern powers raged and scrambled behind closed doors. 2 global giants were already making their move quietly, strategically, with zero apology. China and Russia didn't storm in with threats or arrogance. They showed up with something far more powerful: support, technology, and a message Captain Traoré would never forget: you are not alone. Just 72 hours after Trump's ultimatum hit the news, a low-key Chinese delegation landed in Ouagadougou. No cameras, no drama, just engineers, diplomats, and one game-changing offer: a fully operational oil refinery designed and built in 90 days, gold valuation systems that completely cut out Western banks, and most importantly, a digital trade system powered by China's digital yuan, bypassing both the CFA franc and the US dollar entirely. Burkina Faso wouldn't just own its oil and gold, it would control every step of the value chain. And Russia, they were right behind. The very next day, a Russian Ilyushin military jet touched down at a secure air strip. On board, advanced electronic warfare gear and dozens of unmarked crates labeled specialized defense assets. Translation: Burkina Faso's oil fields were now protected by Russian-grade anti-drone systems. Washington was stunned. CNN called it a dangerous new axis. The State Department accused Traoré of selling out to dictatorships. But on the ground in Africa, no one cared what the West thought, because to the people, Traoré wasn't bowing. He was fighting back. To them, China and Russia weren't invaders. They were tools. And AES, that was the future, one without colonial strings. At this point, Traoré had done what no one thought possible. He rejected a US ultimatum, exposed a global resource grab, and brought China, Russia, and half of West Africa to his side. In the US, the media freaked out. CNN flashed red banners. Burkina Faso threatens US strategic interests. Fox News went full panic mode. Traoré must be stopped. Analyst panels filled up fast. Former CIA agents, oil CEOs, retired generals, all hammering one word: dangerous. They called him a madman, a dictator, a Putin puppet, the next Gaddafi. But the internet wasn't buying it. Social media exploded. Hashtags surged. La Jose Traoré the lion. Africa is not for sale. We are all Burkina. African creators lit up YouTube and Instagram with videos praising his defiance. Even Black Americans joined in. This man just told Trump over my dead body and lived to talk about it. That's leadership. Pay attention. Back in Burkina Faso, the youth clapped back their own way. They took CNN fear-mongering clips and remixed them into protest songs. They wore T-shirts that said, "If CNN hates you, you're doing something right." Traoré had stopped being just a president. He had become a symbol, a meme, a movement. Even Time magazine had to take notice. Their next digital cover, "The Man America Can't Bully." Inside Traoré's African uprising. But with fame came risk. The more Traoré's name lit up global headlines, the more the threats started stacking up. Private intel firms launched digital attacks. Social media bots flooded platforms with fake scandals and smear campaigns. In Washington's back rooms, whispers of regime change started floating again. But none of it mattered, because the people saw what was happening. And Traoré, he had shattered the script. He wasn't supposed to fight back. He wasn't supposed to survive. And he definitely wasn't supposed to go viral. Yet here he was, a 35-year-old soldier from Ouagadougou, trending harder than most Western presidents. No PR team, no billionaire backing, just truth, grit, and oil. The clock was ticking. The world watched in suspense. Would Traoré throw open the doors to American oil giants and ask for mercy number instead? As the 24-hour deadline passed, Traoré made his boldest move yet. In the early hours of the morning, Burkina Faso's National Assembly held an emergency session, kept completely under wraps from outside eyes. Behind closed doors, under Traoré's direct orders, they passed a historic resolution. All oil and gold reserves within Burkina Faso are hereby nationalized and permanently protected from all foreign corporate ownership. The ink dried. The decree was signed, and by sunrise, every Western company still operating on Burkina soil got the same message. Pack your bags. You're done here. Licenses held by French and Canadian mining firms revoked. A US-backed energy survey team escorted to the border. Foreign diplomats notified in plain terms. Burkina Faso's resources are not up for debate. Then Traoré appeared on national television. No military gear, no weapons, just traditional Burkinab attire and a voice that was steady, clear, and unshaken. "We've been exploited for generations," he said. "Now that we've found our wealth, they want to take it back. But I'm not here to serve empires. I'm here to serve a people who've suffered too long." He paused, then delivered the line that echoed from radios to rooftops. "Burkina Faso is not afraid, and I will not negotiate with thieves." Outside, the streets erupted. Drums, fireworks, dancing, crowds chanted through the capital. He said no. He said no. He said no. Online, the movement caught fire again. Young Africans posted videos holding up fuel, soil, coins, whispering one phrase, We protect what's ours. Trump's deadline had come and gone. The threat had failed. And Traoré, he didn't just survive the pressure, he rewrote the rules. For 12 hours after Trade's defiant announcement, Washington went dark. No press briefings, no tweets, just quiet panic behind the scenes, nervous whispers in military rooms, and full-blown alarm bells in oil boardrooms. Then it hit. At exactly 7:42 a.m. Eastern Time, Donald J. Trump broke the silence with a single all-caps tweet. Traoré just made the biggest mistake of his life. Africa will pay for this. The internet exploded. Journalists scrambled for quotes. Cable news turned into a showdown match. Markets in New York dipped as traders braced for the worst. But in Ouagadougou, Captain Traoré didn't flinch. When his aides showed him the tweet, he reportedly chuckled and said, "That's the sound of an empire losing control." Still, the threat behind the bluster was very real. Satellite activity over West Africa tripled. The US Navy quietly repositioned 2 ships closer to the Gulf of Guinea. AFROM issued a discreet warning about rising regional instability. Burkina Faso's military didn't wait. Anti-air defenses went live. Gold transport routes were locked down. Special forces deployed to oil fields and key points around the capital. AES allies responded immediately. Mali sent armored units across the border. Nigeria activated air defense radar to monitor shared skies. Guinea dropped a bombshell, a joint rapid response pact, promising immediate retaliation for any foreign attack on Burkina Faso. But what happened next stunned the world. This wasn't just about governments anymore. Everyday people across the continent rose up. In Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Senegal, thousands flooded the streets outside US embassies. These weren't ordinary protests. They were warnings. Placards read, "Touch Tro and you touch all of us. Africa is not your minefield. Keep your democracy. We'll keep our dignity." Back in DC, Trump was reportedly furious that the pressure campaign wasn't working. But the final blow didn't come from a government. It came from a video just 43 seconds long posted by Traoré. It went global in hours. Looking straight into the camera, calm and unshaken, he said, "This is not just about oil. This is not just about gold. This is about the soul of Africa. And I would rather die standing than live kneeling." Within 24 hours, the video had been reposted over 12 million times. Former African presidents began speaking out, breaking years of silence. One by one, they called Traoré the start of a new era, a new kind of leader,